Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. Here we go with another video, and today we are talking about the heavy weapons. These guys. The heavy weapons are probably one of the most unique. Well, I shouldn't say unique. They're not unique at all. They're pretty basic. But they're probably like one of the most common, in my opinion. There might be. Well, they are legitimately the second most common weapons to find in the game, because there's 5 of them, and there's like, I mean, pretty much every weapon class is smaller than it except light, which in the next video we'll be going over light weapons. So this is technically the most common, well, second most common weapon class that you can find in the game. So with that, I think we should probably just get right into it and talk about ammo. So it's 20 ammo per box you pick up, which is fairly small, but it's the same as light ammo, so you can't really complain about it that much. They stack 3 times, so you get 60 rounds out of them. Which I don't understand why they didn't just make it to where it was like 30 rounds per box and they just make it stack twice. That would have made more sense to me, but you know, I'm big dumb. I don't make no sense. So on to the first weapon.
Wingman here.
Wingman. 100% the Wingman is probably like one of the most iconic like weapons in this game. I can't really disagree with that at all. I mean, it is a revolver. Every game that has its revolver is pretty iconic. How do I feel about the Wingman? I wouldn't be upset if I picked it up at the very beginning of the game. However, this is not something I'm going to carry around to try and get the big old W with. This is not the weapon chief. Not at all. I'd put it in the same class as I would with the Mozambique. It's really good. It's okay by itself, but it's the mod that you can pick up, which happens to be the Skull Piercer. And I'll explain what the Skull Piercer is. But first, I probably should, like, you know, remove it. So, body shots is 45 damage. Critical / headshots are 90, which is double the damage. Pretty standard, I guess. You know, that makes a lot of sense. By the way, I'm running an extended mag. This thing normally holds 5 rounds, but because with extended mag on, you know, it gets to hold more. Which I think is kind of weird that you can extend the magazine of a revolver. Like, what the fuck? That makes no sense at all. But with Skull Piercer, the 90 damage that was before is 101. 2-shot. This weapon is pretty accurate. I mean, in most cases, your gunfights will look like something like this. But yeah, so it can pick up most sights. However, I don't really like them. I don't like sights on the pistols. They just look weird. The only 2 that I think are worth running is the common or like, you know, the classic. This looks okay. I'm not upset when I have this, but however, I wouldn't run it on the pistol. Like, it just looks weird. And the other good one would be the Digital Threat, which, I mean, it kind of looks a little dorky, but you know, you can see through smoke with it. So, and I'm a horrible shot. So yeah, I'm an extremely horrible shot. But this thing is very accurate, like 100%, without a doubt. I mean, even without using the sight, you could probably just use your crosshairs and land headshots. I mean, I do think it could be a little bit more accurate, because the one, if you got the one in Titanfall, which there was 2 wingmen. There was the primary version, which that one fucking hit like a truck. Like, you straight up could, like, 2-shot someone with it. And then there was the secondary version, which would take about 4 or 5 shots, depending on the range, to kill someone. And the secondary version was extremely inaccurate for some reason. The primary version, it was pretty good. Now, I guess we should be moving on to the next weapon. I might as well put this out there. I don't think any of the pistols in the game are bad. I can't really rate the pistols. However, as far as heavy weapons are concerned, the Wingman probably, I would say, scores the lowest in my opinion, just because it is a pistol, in fact. But like I said, you know, it's better than doing the 30 damage with your fist, because 45 damage from a body shot, you are doing technically doing more damage. So, also, I'd say this is a good in-your-face weapon because of how accurate it is. You know, you can kind of like punch them away and do all that. So, make it how you want. But moving on to what I would say is the next worst weapon on this list, the Prowler. Now, the Prowler is not technically a horrible weapon. I personally think the Prowler is really good, but it requires a mod. Now, normally speaking, the Prowler, it's a burst fire. And 525 damage is enough to kill 2 people. More than enough. But, yeah. So my issue with this weapon is, without having a stock on, it feels weird. Like, I can't use this thing reliably. It depends on the sight, and I like to run the variable hollow. I can reliably use this sight because I use it a lot. But I don't think this gun is really even good until we get to like a stock on it. Any level would help, but you know, obviously the tier 3 will be the best. It always feels like the first shots from the mag pick up a lot more than the rest. Like, the further you, like, the more you use the gun, the accurate it gets. Like, like, this, first kick, 100% accurate. Like, no comparison. So the first shots out of this gun are really hard to control. But then it gets easier to control the more you shoot it. Why that is, I'm not really sure, but that is the Prowler. Now there's a mod you can get, which is select fire.
Gotta hop up here.
Okay, I was hoping she'd say select fire, but whatever. So what this does is it takes the weapon from burst fire into full auto. Does the same damage, just makes the weapon full auto. Also, I don't know if this thing has a firing pattern or not. I've never checked. I mean, I wouldn't say that makes any like particular shape. However, it's probably going to look the same. Yeah, it's fairly similar. So you can kind of figure that out. You might do well with it. But overall, it's not a bad weapon because of how much damage it does per shot. 15. It's not, I mean, the energy weapons, which easily melt people, only do 18, so it's a 3 damage off. I mean, I guess that can kind of make the difference after you're like 5 shots in. But, I mean, pretty easy dub. 23 per crit. However, this Ging is actually a really good hipfire weapon too. Like, I mean, even at like farther ranges, it's pretty accurate still. Makes it a good, you know, like get up in your face weapon pretty, so it's not the worst gun. I mean, I guess technically the other two on this list are worse than this, but well, yeah. So then, in my opinion, the third worst weapon, Hemlock. Now, I might as well go ahead and preface this. I hate this fucking weapon, so I'm entirely biased to it. If you like this weapon, good for you. You will almost never see me using this thing. But my attachments I have right now is the tier 4 stock, no, tier 3 stock, tier 4 barrel. I'm running the variable hollow. I actually enjoy this weapon with variable hollow, ranger, and variable AOG. So it's really up to you what you want to use. However, I do like this setup. I think it fits the weapon pretty well. But that's just me. And also extended mag, for, you know, obvious reasons. So my issue with this weapon is it has 2 firing modes without having to put a modifier on it, or like a mod. 66 damage is not bad by any means. But this is definitely like a mid-range weapon. This thing is horrible at close range. If you fight with this thing at close range, you will be dominated 100%. Now, this is the weird thing with this weapon, because it works best at mid-range, which is, I'd say, about this far. At farther ranges, like long, it becomes even weirder. Like, I mean, it's good at like long and mid ranges. However, I wouldn't necessarily try to engage using it with long range. I mean, if you crack someone at this range, I mean, you could probably finish them off from here. However, I wouldn't necessarily try to push it. Maybe have a different sight on, like the ranger. Like the ranger would help you in that situation. Like, it kind of depends on the site and the situation. But like I said, it's up to you. Any of these weapons are pretty good with certain sites. It's really all depending on how you want to use it. But yeah, this thing is not like a horrible weapon by any means. I mean, it is extremely accurate, like pretty much all the heavy weapons are. I mean, I guess it should be kind of accurate, or a lot more accurate, because, you know, it is a burst fire. Crit damage wise though, it's okay. I mean, it'll 2-shot someone. Per damage, say if you like miss like the first shot, if I can, it should do 22 damage. I'm gonna do this like, yeah, it should kind of like double the damage, so 44 damage per bullet, for a crit. Now it does have a single fire mode, which I probably should have tested it Trying to figure out the damage per bullet with this. I don't know why I didn't. That was kind of dumb of me. I guess if you use it this way, it could be better at long range or like medium range. I guess in some ways you can kind of see this as like a G7 Scout with like the heavy weapons, but it depends on how you use it, I guess. Now on to not a horrible weapon, but simultaneously a horrible weapon, and that is the Flatline. The Flatline is insanely bad. Now I happen to like this weapon a pretty good amount. By the way, I'm running tier 3 bruiser. Now, so this weapon has an interesting feature to it, and it's that if you look at the reticle, it's supposed to, the recoil is side to side, not up and down, which is pretty interesting to me. Like, I mean, that's pretty accurate, but I mean, then again, I guess I am standing pretty close. It does start to lift, but like it's not consistent like this. Like, this is what I mean by vertical recoil, and this is horizontal recoil. It's all over the fucking place. It's like a fucking shotgun. That's what makes this weapon really weird to use, because 19 damage is a lot. Hands down, that is a lot of damage. And for a crit, you know, 38. That's pretty cool, I guess. Not bad. However, because the recoil is the way it is, this is a better hip-fire weapon. And even then, it's not that great of a hip-fire weapon. And oddly enough, it suffers from the same issue that I think that the Prowler has, and it's that the first couple rounds are pretty out of, like, really weird. I mean, after you get like about a third of the way into the mag, it becomes pretty accurate, or at least more than the rest of it. The goal with this weapon is to not think about you're gonna land all your fucking shots, because if you think that you're gonna do that, I mean, it's gonna bite you in the ass. Now it does have a single fire mode, which is interesting, I guess. I mean, it still has like the same issue as the other. Which again, I guess, kind of makes it comparable to the Hemlock in that regard. This is basically an M4 or an AR, and this is the AK. I mean, it literally says VH-47, and it even looks like an AK. It's just like a bullpup version. Yeah. This weapon's not that bad. I like the bruiser sight on it. The red dot's not that bad. The variable, it does not work for this weapon at all. Same thing with the regular hollow. Now, pretty much, if you try to even use this fucking sight on this weapon, you're gonna be sorely disappointed. It has like a little bit too much kick to reliably use. That's not what I want to do. So, yeah. Ranger, not the worst sights you can put on it. But, still has a little bit of kick regardless. So, I like the bruiser. The bruiser works really well with this weapon. Now, I guess we're on to the last weapon, and that is the Spitfire. So, let's be honest, the Spitfire is one of the best weapons in the game. If you say otherwise, you're big dumb. I mean, look at this. More damage per magazine than the Devotion. Yeah. I don't even know what to tell you. And that's not even crits, by the way. Per shot, 18 damage. Same as the energy weapons, but the Devotion is 17 damage per shot. And then you got the crits, which is 36, which again, same as energy weapons. So this thing does melt. I think the only issue though is it feels like the fire rate is pretty slow. It's not horribly slow, but it does feel slow nonetheless. Sights to use on this thing. I do like the Ranger. The Ranger works really well. The AOG works well. The variable, it works well too. I run this sometimes, but I do prefer a mid-range sight on this weapon because, like, this thing's damage drop-off, I mean, it basically has none. Like, so it's nice to run a mid-range sight, but that's my opinion on it. It's up to you what you want to run. This is just kind of ridiculous. There's like no point in running this at all. The Bruiser, Bruiser works pretty well. Not the sight I prefer, but if you don't have a Ranger, Bruiser will work just almost as good. And same thing with the Classic. This is kind of pointless. This thing has way too much range on it to just handicap it that way. This is a good mid-range and possibly even long-range weapon depending on how you use it. Of course, I have horrible accuracy, so, but yeah, that's pretty much all the weapons here. Spitfire, I pretty much always, if I can find one, I will instantly pick it up. My favorite heavy weapon out of all of them. The Prowler, not that bad if you can get the full auto mod and get past those like first 4 or 5 shots out of the magazine. Hemlock, good mid-range weapon, but that's pretty much all it's used for. The Flatline, it's a fucking joke. It's way too inconsistent to really reliably use, but I mean, for the most part, if you just drop down to the drop shit and you find this, this will have to do, and it's not that bad as a starter weapon, I guess. Wingman, again, not bad. All the pistols are pretty good. I can't really hate on it. I do think the fire rate's a little slow, but you know, it's a fucking revolver. They had to balance it somehow. But yeah, out of these 3, my top picks would be the Spitfire, Prowler, and Hemlock. Even though I really hate the Hemlock, I would have to put it in the top 3. And with that being said,
Phasing.
that's the video, guys.